My son-in-law told me I'd never be successful at my daughter's wedding reception. Said it right there during his thank you speech, in front of 150 people in their fancy suits and designer dresses, while I sat at a table near the back in the only suit I owned, the one I'd worn to my wife's funeral 8 years earlier. He looked right at me when he said it, smiled that cold smile rich people have, and the room filled with polite laughter that felt like knives. I sat there with my calloused hands folded on the white tablecloth, surrounded by people who'd never worked a day with their hands, and I felt smaller than I'd felt since Diane died. My little girl Maya, my whole world, didn't say a word, just looked down at her plate while her new husband destroyed me for entertainment. If you've ever been looked down on for honest work, if you've ever been made to feel worthless because you chose to build things instead of shuffle papers, sit down right here with me, because this coffee's got some bite to it and the story gets better. I'm Gerald Thompson. For 35 years, I've been a plumber in Atlanta, Georgia. I've crawled under houses in August heat that could kill a man. I've fixed burst pipes at 3 in the morning in the dead of winter. I've pulled things out of drains that would make you lose your lunch. My hands are scarred, my knees don't work like they used to, and my back reminds me every morning what hard work costs. But I was proud of it. Proud of every house I kept running. Every family I helped when their water heater died or their toilet overflowed. I put Maya through college doing that work. Paid for her apartment, her car, her life. When her mama died of ovarian cancer back in 2011, it was just me and her against the world. I thought that meant something. Then she met Brandon Whitmore at some corporate mixer in Buckhead. He was a hotshot investment broker, came from old Atlanta money, the kind of family that has streets named after them. And suddenly, my plumber money wasn't good enough anymore. My work boots were an embarrassment. I was a problem to be managed. On June 15, 2019, at the most expensive wedding venue in Atlanta, I learned that love doesn't always flow both ways. Sometimes it gets clogged up with shame and status and other people's opinions. And sometimes you need more than a pipe wrench to fix it. If you like stories about people who got stepped on but stood back up, about proving your worth when everyone says you're worthless, go ahead and subscribe to Grandpa's Diaries. Because I'm just getting warmed up, and trust me, you'll want to see where this goes. Maya was born on a Sunday morning in October 1991. Came into the world screaming like she had something to say and wasn't waiting for permission. Diane held her, tears running down her beautiful face, and looked at me like we'd just created a miracle. Maybe we had. That little girl became my whole reason for breathing. I wasn't always a plumber. Started out wanting to be an architect, believe it or not. Got accepted to Georgia Tech and everything. But my parents didn't have money for college, and I didn't want to drown in debt. So I took an apprenticeship with a plumbing company when I was 19. Figured I'd learn the trade, save money, go to school later. Later never came, but I don't regret it. I built a good life. Met Diane at a church barbecue in '90. She was a nurse at Grady Hospital, had a smile that could light up a room and a laugh that made you want to make her happy forever. We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony with 50 people and a potluck reception. Nothing fancy, but it was real. We bought a small house in East Atlanta, the kind of neighborhood where people looked out for each other. Maya grew up watching me work. I'd take her on service calls sometimes when she was little, let her hand me tools, teach her how things worked. "Daddy, why's the water not running?" she'd ask. And I'd show her the pipes, explain pressure and flow, watch her little face light up with understanding. She was smart, smarter than me by a mile. When Diane got sick, Maya was 19, home from UGA for the summer. Ovarian cancer, stage 4 by the time they caught it, 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. I watched my wife waste away while Maya held her hand, and I worked double shifts to pay for treatments that didn't work. The night Diane died, Maya crawled into bed next to me like she was 5 years old again, and we cried until the sun came up. After that, it was just us. I finished paying for Maya's degree in marketing. She graduated, got a decent job at a mid-sized firm in Midtown. We'd have dinner every Sunday at my house and she'd tell me about her week, her friends, her life. I was proud. So damn proud. My baby girl, first college graduate in our family, building something good. Then she met Brandon at some networking event in 2017. She came to Sunday dinner glowing, talking about this successful guy who drove a BMW and lived in a high-rise in Buckhead. I was happy for her. Wanted her to find love like I'd found with her mama. But the first time I met him, something felt wrong. The way he looked at my house. The way he shook my hand like he was touching something dirty. The way he said, "So, you're a plumber," with that little pause before the word like it tasted bad in his mouth. Maya started making excuses. Too busy for Sunday dinner. Had plans with Brandon's friends. When she did come by, she looked uncomfortable, like she was visiting a museum of a life she'd outgrown. I told myself it was just her growing up, building her own life. But deep down, I knew I was losing her to a world that didn't want people like me in it. The first real cut came at Thanksgiving, 2018. Maya invited me to Brandon's parents' house in Brookhaven. The Whitmores lived in an estate with iron gates, the kind of place I'd done plumbing work in 100 times, but never as a guest. I showed up in my church clothes with sweet potato pie from Diane's recipe. Patricia Whitmore answered the door in pearls and a dress that probably cost more than my mortgage. She looked at my pie like I'd brought something contaminated. "Oh, how quaint. We have desserts catered by Henri's, but we'll find somewhere for this." She handed it to their housekeeper without another word. The dinner table sat 12, all white except me and Maya. Brandon's father was an investment banker, his brother a corporate lawyer. Everyone speaking a language of yacht clubs and summer houses that might as well have been foreign. I felt like an exhibit on display. Brandon spent the meal talking about deals, throwing around millions. His father beamed. Then Patricia turned to me, wineglass in hand. "So, Gerald, Maya tells us you're a plumber. That must be interesting work." The way she said plumber made it sound dirty. I kept my voice steady. "Yes, ma'am. 33 years. Honest work. Put Maya through college with it." She smiled without warmth. "How admirable. Manual labor has its place. Someone has to do it." Brandon laughed. "Well, thankfully Maya won't have to worry about that anymore. She's marrying up." The table chuckled. Maya's face went red, but she said nothing. Just stared at her plate while her future husband made a joke out of my life. I left early, made an excuse about a service call. Maya walked me to my truck. I thought she might apologize. Instead, she said, "Daddy, they don't mean anything by it. Try to fit in, okay?" For me? Fit in. Like I was a puzzle piece from the wrong box. Christmas was worse. 200 people at their holiday party drinking champagne. I stood in a corner while people asked what I did, then found excuses to leave when I answered. Brandon introduced me to colleagues as Maya's father. He's in blue-collar work. Said it like an apology. By February, when Brandon proposed with a ring that cost more than I made in 6 months, I knew I was losing my daughter to a world that didn't want me. But I smiled, hugged them both, and started saving every penny for the wedding. Because that's what fathers do, even when it's killing them inside. June 15, 2019. Maya's wedding day at Cherokee Town and Country Club, one of the most exclusive clubs in Atlanta. The wedding cost $90,000. Brandon's parents paid most. I contributed $15,000 every dollar I'd saved over 18 months. It felt like dropping a penny in an ocean. I wasn't allowed to walk Maya down the aisle. Brandon's father insisted on a modern ceremony where Maya walked herself. I sat in the third row behind Brandon's family, in my 10-year-old suit. Maya looked beautiful, but when she passed my row, she didn't look at me. Not once. The ceremony was quick, sterile. No mention of Diane. No acknowledgement that Maya had a life before Brandon. Just vows about their future, their success. I sat there thinking about the little girl who used to sit on my shoulders, and I felt like I was at a stranger's wedding. The reception was in a ballroom with crystal chandeliers and ice sculptures. 150 people in designer clothes drinking top-shelf liquor. I was seated at table 11 in the back with distant Whitmore cousins who didn't speak to me all night. Maya and Brandon made their rounds. When they reached my table, Maya gave me a quick hug. "Thanks for coming, Daddy," like I was just another guest. Brandon shook my hand. "Good to see you, Gerald." Not Dad. Not Pops. Gerald. Then came the speeches. Brandon's father talked about legacy and welcoming Maya into the Whitmore dynasty. Then Brandon took the microphone. He thanked guests, praised his parents. Then he turned toward my table. "I also want to acknowledge my new father-in-law, Gerald Thompson." My heart jumped. Maybe he'd show respect. Gerald's here tonight, and I think it's important to recognize that Maya and I come from very different backgrounds. The room got quiet. Maya's father is a plumber, has been his whole life, and I think that's admirable, really, to be content with that, to never aspire to more, to just accept that you'll never be successful in the traditional sense. He paused. But fortunately, Maya had bigger dreams. And I'm so glad she chose to rise above her circumstances and build something better with me. The room erupted in applause. Patricia Whitmore raised her glass. I sat frozen while 150 people celebrated my humiliation. Maya's face was unreadable. She didn't clap, but she didn't object either. Just stood there while her husband destroyed her father. I walked out before they cut the cake. Nobody noticed. I sat in my truck for an hour, hands shaking, trying to breathe, and I made myself a promise. A quiet, dangerous one. I was going to show Brandon Whitmore what success really looked like. I didn't talk to Maya for 3 months after the wedding. She called twice. I didn't answer. My best friend Marcus, who'd worked construction with me for 20 years, found me in September surrounded by real estate books and property listings in my garage. Jerry, what's going on? You haven't been yourself. I looked up, realizing I hadn't shaved in a week, had lost maybe 15 pounds. Marcus, I'm done being invisible. I'm done being the embarrassment. I'm going to build something. Here's what Brandon didn't know about plumbers. We go into more houses in a year than real estate agents. We see behind walls, under floors, in crawl spaces. We know which houses are solid and which are disasters. We know which neighborhoods are about to explode and which are dying. We see things others miss. For 35 years, I'd been taking mental notes. Properties in foreclosure that just needed work. Neighborhoods in transition. Houses people were selling cheap because they didn't know value. I had notebooks full of addresses, observations, ideas. I just never had the guts to act. That $15,000 for Maya's wedding? I had another $35,000 saved for retirement. I took it all, every penny, and I started buying houses. Small foreclosures in transitioning neighborhoods. East Atlanta, Kirkwood, Edgewood, areas that were rough but improving. My first property cost $42,000. A 3-bedroom bungalow in Kirkwood with busted foundation, bad plumbing, leaking roof. Everyone thought I was crazy, but I knew houses. I spent 3 months fixing it myself. New pipes, new roof, foundation work, cosmetic upgrades. Marcus helped weekends. I was 60, working 16-hour days, knees screaming, back on fire. But I was building something. I sold that house 6 months later for $98,000. $56,000 in profit. I bought 2 more properties, fixed them, sold one, rented the other. The rent covered my living expenses. I bought another, then another. By year 1, I owned 4 properties. By year 2, 7. Maya came in November of 2020. Showed up unannounced, looking tired. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. "Why are you here, Maya?" She started crying. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I should have defended you. I was scared. Brandon's family, they're intense. I didn't know how." I cut her off. "You let him humiliate me. You stood there while he told everyone I was a failure, that you had to rise above me. Your mother is dead, Maya. I'm all you had left, and you let him do that." She reached for my hand. I pulled away. "I need you to leave." She left sobbing, and I went back to work, building an empire one house at a time, while the people who mocked me lived completely unaware of what was coming. By 2023, Thompson Properties owned 28 rental units across Atlanta. I'd formed an LLC, hired a property manager, was pulling in $35,000 monthly in passive rent. I'd flipped another dozen houses. Net worth, $3 million. At 63, I'd built more in 4 years than most people build in a lifetime. Marcus became my business partner. We hired contractor crews, bought company trucks, started taking bigger projects. Duplexes, small apartment buildings, commercial properties. I still got my hands dirty, but now I wore a Thompson Properties polo. I never called Maya. She'd try every few months. I'd respond with one word: "Thanks." I heard through Marcus that her marriage was struggling. Brandon had made bad investments, got cocky, lost big. His firm fired him. By 2024, he was scrambling for contract work. March 24th. My property manager Sharon called. "Mr. Thompson, we have an issue with the Buckhead property on Piedmont Circle. Tenants are 3 months behind. $12,600 owed. We need to start eviction." "Send me the tenant information," I said. The email came through. Tenants: Brandon and Maya Whitmore. My heart stopped. My daughter was living in my house. Had been for 18 months. She had no idea. "I'll handle this personally," I told Sharon. I learned Brandon had been unemployed 8 months. They were drowning in debt, desperate to maintain appearances. Saturday morning, I drove to the townhouse. My townhouse. I'd renovated it myself. I knocked at 9 a.m. Maya answered in a bathrobe, exhausted. "Daddy, what are you doing here?" "I'm here about the rent." Brandon came out in sweatpants. When he saw me, he sneered. "What do you want, Gerald?" I handed him the lease agreement. His eyes found the signature. Thompson Properties, LLC. Gerald Thompson, owner. Blood drained from his face. You own this house?" I smiled. Cold. Years of humiliation crystallized into one moment. I own this house. I own 28 properties across Atlanta. I own a management company. I'm worth $5 million. So yeah, Brandon. I figured out success after all. Maya started crying. "Daddy, we didn't know. Brandon lost his job, we've been struggling. You're 3 months behind, that's grounds for eviction. I could have you out in 30 days. Brandon went red. "You wouldn't do that to your own daughter. You told 150 people I'd never be successful. That Maya had to rise above me. You made me worthless at my daughter's wedding. Why should I show you mercy?" Silence. Maya sobbing. Brandon looking sick. I let them sit with it. Then I pulled out another paper. 30 days. 12,600 plus next month's rent. 17,000 total. Or you're out. "We don't have it," Brandon whispered. "Then figure it out. Sell your furniture. Call your parents." "Oh wait. Isn't asking for help beneath the Whitmore dynasty?" Maya grabbed my arm. "Daddy, please, I know I was wrong, but please don't do this." I looked at her. "You had a choice at that wedding, Maya. You chose him. You chose status over your father. Now live with it. 30 days. 17,000. Or you're out. Business is business." I walked to my truck and drove away. In my mirror, Maya stood crying in the doorway, and I felt something I hadn't felt in 5 years. Power. They came up with the money. Took them 29 days, but they did it. Brandon's parents loaned them $15,000. Maya borrowed the rest from her 401k. They paid. I let them stay. Not out of kindness, out of business sense. Paying customers are paying customers. But things changed. Maya started dropping off rent checks personally. At first, just handed them over and left. Then she started staying. We'd talk about small things, weather, the Falcons, nothing deep. But it was something. 6 months later, she showed up on a Wednesday afternoon and broke down. "I'm leaving him, Daddy. Filed for divorce yesterday." I didn't say, "I told you so." Just handed her tissues and listened while she cried about wasted years and broken promises. "Can I come home?" "Not to my house. Home." I thought about it for a long time. About the wedding, the humiliation, the silence. "You can stay in one of my properties rent-free for 6 months while you figure things out. But we're taking this slow, Maya. You broke something. It doesn't just fix itself." She nodded, crying. Over the next year, we rebuilt. Slowly. Sunday dinners started again. She'd help with paperwork, learn the business. She apologized 100 times. I accepted maybe half. Some wounds don't heal completely. They just scar over. Brandon moved back with his parents at 40. Working as a junior analyst now, making a quarter of what he used to. His parents don't invite him to parties anymore. Golden boy tarnished. I don't take pleasure in it, but I don't lose sleep over it either. Today I'm 65. Thompson Properties owns 47 units worth $28 million. I employ 12 people. I still do site visits, still get my hands dirty, because that's who I am. A plumber who figured out honest work and smart decisions can build something nobody sees coming. Here's what I learned. Success isn't about where you start or what people think. It's about what you build when everyone's counting you out. It's about turning humiliation into fuel. About knowing your worth even when the people closest to you don't. We raise our children to fly, but sometimes they forget where they came from. The ones who come back, who remember, who rebuild the bridge they burned, those are the ones worth forgiving. The ones who don't? They get to live in houses owned by the people they looked down on. So let me ask you, has anyone made you feel small for honest work? Told you you'd never be successful? Made you feel worthless for being exactly who you are? Tell me in the comments. You're not alone. And if this story reminded you it's never too late to prove people wrong, that dignity and hard work still matter, that the best revenge is success built one brick at a time, hit subscribe on Grandpa's Diaries. I've got more stories about regular people doing extraordinary things when the world says they can't. The plumber owns the house now, and that's the last lesson Brandon Whitmore will ever learn from me.